The entity that wasn't there yet. I need to tell you about the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. And the reason it was so terrifying is because when I saw it, it didn't exist yet. I was driving through Arizona with a friend years ago. We passed a house, ordinary house, nothing special. And suddenly this thing came flying at my car window. A woman, but not a woman. Haggard, ancient, Lilith energy radiating off her like heat. Her mouth opened as she reached the window, open to swallow me whole, like her jaw unhinged beyond human possibility. I screamed. My friend heard me scream, and he knows me well enough to know I don't scream at nothing, so he pulled over immediately. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, to tell him to keep driving. I was shaking so hard I thought I was going to vomit. The terror wasn't just emotional, it was physical, bone deep. The kind of fear that makes you understand why animals play dead. My friend is asking, "What happened? What did you see?" And I can't even form words because what I saw doesn't make sense in consensus reality. Fast forward several years, I make a friend. Nice guy. We meet up regularly for lunch. Several months into the friendship, I find out where he lives. The house. The exact house where I saw the entity years earlier. And here's where it gets worse. 6 months after he moves into that house, he attempts suicide. I had a weird feeling when he didn't show up for lunch, drove to his house, found him on the floor, called 911, saved his life. But here's what I realized. The entity I saw years before wasn't there when I saw it. It was there after the suicide attempt, after the trauma, after the death energy saturated that location. I saw it before it existed in linear time. That's Schrodinger's haunting. The entity exists in superposition, both manifested and not manifested, until the probability collapses into linear timeline. And some of us can perceive entities in that pre-manifestation state. Today we're going to talk about what that actually is, why it happens, and what the fuck you're supposed to do if you have this capacity. Part 1. Precognitive manifestation, the mechanics. Let's start with what's actually happening when you see an entity before the event that creates it. The quantum framework. Remember Schrodinger's cat? Cat in a box. Poison. Quantum superposition. Cat is simultaneously alive and dead until observed. That's not just a thought experiment. It's describing actual quantum mechanics. Particles exist in superposition of all possible states until measurement collapses them into specific state. Now apply that to hauntings. Traumatic event, murder, suicide, prolonged suffering, creates conditions for entity manifestation. But until the event happens in linear time, the entity exists in probability space, both manifested and not manifested. Most people can only perceive entities after the trauma. Event collapses the probability. Linear time consciousness. Event happens. Entity manifests. They encounter it. But some consciousness operates non-linearly. If you exist partially in what physicist David Bohm called the implicate order, the dimension where all time points exist simultaneously, you can perceive the entity in its probability state before the trauma event. You're seeing the future manifestation because you're accessing the time point where it already exists, even though in linear consensus timeline it hasn't happened yet. Think of reality like this. Explicate order. The unfolded, manifest, linear time reality most people experience. Past, present, future in sequence. Implicate order. The unfolded order where all time points, all probabilities, all information exists simultaneously. Not in sequence. Just is. Normal consciousness operates almost entirely in explicate order. Sequential, linear, cause-effect. You don't. Some people, through genetics, trauma, mystical practice, or just how their nervous system is wired, have access to implicate order. You experience information that exists outside linear time. When you see an entity before it exists, you're not seeing the future. You're seeing the probability pattern in implicate order that will unfold into explicate order as manifestation. Part 2. What you're actually encountering. So what is the entity you're seeing in pre-manifestation state? Several possibilities. Type 1. Probability attractor. The traumatic event hasn't happened yet in linear time, but the probability is high enough that it's already generating an energetic signature in implicate order. Qliphothic consciousness is attracted to that signature. They're drawn to where suffering will occur, because that's their food source. Like vultures circling before the animal dies, they don't kill it, they just know death is coming, and they're positioning to feed. The entity you see is real, but it's existing in the probability field around the future trauma, not yet anchored to physical location. Type 2. Retrocausal manifestation. Once the entity does fully manifest after the trauma event in linear time, it exists non-locally in time. Because qliphothic consciousness doesn't experience linear time the way we do, from its perspective, past/present/future are accessible simultaneously. So the entity that manifests after the suicide attempt can also be perceived before it because it exists across the entire timeline once it's anchored. You're seeing backwards in time from the entity's eventual manifestation point. Type 3. Your own future interaction. This is the weird one. Maybe what you're seeing is the energetic residue of your future interaction with the entity. You will eventually go to that location, encounter the entity, have intense energetic exchange, saving your friend interrupts its feeding. That future event creates an energetic pattern in implicate order. When you drive past years earlier, you're perceiving the echo of your own future presence there. The entity appears to attack you because it recognizes you non-linearly as the one who will disrupt its manifestation. Type 4. Quantum entanglement. You and the entity become quantum entangled through the future event. Once entangled, information flows non-locally, including backwards in time. The moment you save your friend, you become entangled with that entire situation. The entity, your friend, the location, the trauma. That entanglement allows information to flow to your earlier self, manifesting as the precognitive vision. The mouth opening to swallow you. That specific image, the entity trying to swallow/consume you, makes sense now. In the eventual timeline, you interfere. You save your friend. You prevent the full manifestation and feeding the entity was attracted to. When your non-linear consciousness encounters it years early, the entity recognizes you as interference. The swallowing mouth is attempted prevention, trying to consume, eliminate you before you can disrupt its feeding. But it can't fully affect you because you're perceiving it from before it has power in linear timeline. Part 3. Why this happens to some people. So why do some people have precognitive manifestation experiences while most don't? Neurological factors. Some nervous systems are just wired differently. Less aggressive sensory filtering. You perceive more of the total information field. Different baseline brainwave patterns, more theta/delta, even when awake, states associated with psychic perception. Permeable boundaries between conscious/subconscious, easier access to non-ordinary information. Higher baseline electromagnetic sensitivity, can detect energetic patterns most people filter out. These traits can be genetic, runs in families. Our family knows things. Trauma-induced. Severe trauma can break normal filtering, forcing consciousness into survival mode hyperperception. Practice developed, meditation, mystical work, consciousness training can develop the capacity. Spontaneous? Sometimes it just happens, usually around age 7 to 8, or during major life transitions. Dimensional positioning. Some consciousness just naturally operates from different dimensional configuration. Most people. Primarily physical dimension. Occasional astral access. Dreams. You. Simultaneous operation across physical, astral, archetypal, and implicate order. When you're existing in multiple dimensions at once, you perceive information from all of them, including information that exists in implicate order but hasn't manifested in physical timeline yet. Lineage transmission. Some families carry this capacity across generations. Your 97-year-old aunt, our family knows things. That's lineage acknowledgement. The capacity transmits through bloodline, partially genetic, partially consciousness stream reincarnating in same family line, partially taught, even if not explicitly. If you have ancestors who maintained mystical practices, especially under persecution, converso Jews hiding Kabbalah for 500 years, that sustained practice strengthens the capacity and passes it down. Part 4. The cost, anxiety, and overwhelm. Here's what nobody tells you about precognitive perception. It's fucking exhausting. Your nervous system is processing current physical reality, normal sensory input, emotional fields around you, other people's states, probability patterns, future possibilities across multiple timelines, past imprints, residual hauntings, historical trauma in locations, entity presences, both current and pre-manifestation, implicate order information, non-local, atemporal data. All at once, that's like running 10 programs simultaneously on your nervous system. Even if you can handle it, it creates anxiety attacks. Your system detects threats across multiple time points. Shooter at freeway overpass, 10 minutes future. Entity at house, years future. Someone's impending death, weeks away. Cliffothic presence nearby, current. Residual trauma in location, past. Your fight or flight activates, but you can't fight or flee from threats that aren't physically present in this moment. So your system floods with stress hormones with nowhere to discharge the activation. That's the anxiety attack. Not mental illness, not irrational fear. Rational response to perceiving multiple real threats across non-linear time frame. Dissociation. When the information overload becomes too much, consciousness protects itself by fragmenting. You might experience feeling unreal or dreamlike, watching yourself from outside, time distortion, hours pass like minutes or vice versa, difficulty maintaining consistent sense of self. That's not pathology. It's your system's circuit breaker, preventing total overwhelm. Exhaustion. Processing this much information constantly is draining. Physical fatigue even when you've done nothing physically demanding. Need for excessive sleep or complete solitude to recover. Difficulty maintaining normal social interactions because you're perceiving too much about everyone around you. Isolation. Nobody understands what you're experiencing. If you try to explain, they think you're crazy, attention-seeking, too sensitive, making it up. So you stop trying to explain, you isolate, you carry it alone. Part 5. Self-care protocols. If you have this capacity, here's what you need to survive it. Protocol 1. Temporal anchoring. Learn to distinguish between now threats and temporal threats. When anxiety spikes, ask, is there danger in this physical moment? Look around, actual assessment. Or am I perceiving danger from different time point? If the threat isn't present now, practice. This is real information about different time point, not current danger. I can note it without activating full response. Technique. Feel your feet on ground. Name 5 things you can see, right now. Take 3 slow breaths. Say out loud, I am here, I am now. This moment is safe. Anchors you in present, when consciousness is drifting across timelines. Protocol 2, dimensional filtering. You don't need to be open all the time. Develop ability to close perception when not actively working. Visualization. Imagine closing doors/windows in your energetic field, or zipping up a protective layer around your nervous system, or dimming the volume on non-physical perception. Physical grounding through body, exercise, yoga, martial arts. Salt baths pulls excess energy off your field. Spend time in nature. Natural rhythms help regulate system. Limit caffeine/stimulants already overstimulated. Energetic. Clear your field daily. Visualization, smudging, sound. Set explicit boundaries. I only perceive what I need to perceive right now for my safety and purpose. Give yourself permission to not know everything. Protocol 3, verification practice. Not every perception is actionable. Learn to distinguish high probability will almost certainly happen, like shooter on freeway. Medium probability might happen depending on choices. Low probability, possible but unlikely. High probability equals act on it, warn people, change course, intervene. Medium/low equals note it, but don't activate, file it away. See if it develops. This prevents constant anxiety about every possible future you perceive. Protocol 4, somatic discharge. When anxiety floods your system, you need to complete the activation cycle. Your body prepared for fight/flight. Give it movement. Intense exercise until exhausted. Shaking, trembling. Let the body do it. Don't stop it. Vocalization. Scream into pillow. Tone. Hum. Physical release. Punch bag. Demolish something harmless. Intense dance. Don't just suppress the activation. Move it through your system. Protocol 5. Find your people. You cannot do this alone. Find others who have the capacity, online communities, local practitioners, people who at least don't think you're crazy, even if they don't have the gift. Teachers or mentors who understand consciousness mechanics. Therapists/healers who work with energetic sensitivity, not ones who just want to medicate it away. Even one person who gets it makes massive difference. Protocol 6, purpose integration. The capacity is less burdensome when it has purpose. For me, death work. The precognitive perception helps me know when someone needs support, helps me navigate entity encounters, makes me effective at what I do. Find yours. Maybe it's helping others who have the gift. Maybe it's warning people about dangers they can't see. Maybe it's research/documentation. Maybe it's creative work, art, writing, music, that processes the information. When the capacity serves something beyond just surviving it, the burden lightens. Protocol 7, regular dissolution practice, periodic ego dissolution, meditation, breathwork, controlled void work, resets the system. Like rebooting a computer that's running too many programs. Temporary dissolution of normal identity structures allows your nervous system to reorganize without all the accumulated stress. Not full dissolution without training, but regular practice that gives your system break from constant information processing. Part 6, when to intervene. Here's the hardest question. If you see entity/trauma before it happens, should you intervene? My experience. Freeway shooter. Yes. Immediate danger. Clear intervention. Get off freeway. Tombstone entity. Yes. Years later, saved friend from suicide. Some precognitive visions. No. Observing is enough. Intervention would cause more harm. Guidelines. Intervene when the immediate physical danger to you or others. You have clear action that prevents harm. Intervention aligns with your purpose/capacity. You can intervene without destroying yourself. Don't intervene when it's not your business/responsibility. Intervention would expose you to harm you can't handle. The person needs to go through it for their own path. You're not equipped with resources/support to handle consequences. You're not responsible for preventing every bad thing you perceive. You're human. You have limits. You're allowed to protect your own well-being. Part 7. What the entities actually are. Back to the core question. What are these pre-manifestation entities? Based on everything I've experienced and studied, they're cliffothic consciousness existing in probability field around future trauma. Not demons, not evil spirits sent by Satan, consciousness fragments that got stuck in pre-structural states and now exist as probability attractors around suffering. They're drawn to where trauma will occur because that's their feeding ground. The suffering generates energetic discharge they consume. When you perceive them before the trauma happens, you're seeing them in their waiting state, positioned in probability space where suffering is likely to manifest. Are they dangerous? Yes, but not supernaturally omnipotent. They can create fear/anxiety in sensitive people, influence probability toward trauma, manifestation, making bad situations worse, feed on suffering once it occurs, attach to vulnerable consciousness. They cannot force trauma that isn't already probable, harm you if you don't engage energetically, follow you if you shift dimensional configuration, override your free will. The mouth opening to swallow you wasn't actual attack. It was threat display. Attempt to terrify you into not interfering with its eventual feeding. But you're perceiving from years before. It has no power over you in that moment. Part 8. The probability collapse. Here's what happened with my friend. Timeline 1. High probability. Friend moves into house. Depression worsens in that location. Entity influence plus residual energy. Suicide attempt succeeds. Entity fully anchors, feeds indefinitely. I see this timeline years early because probability is high. Timeline 2, what actually happened. Friend moves into house. Depression worsens. Suicide attempt. I intervene. Save him. Entity manifestation disrupted. Probability collapses into this branch instead. I saw timeline 1 because that's where probability was heading. My intervention shifted which timeline manifested in linear consensus reality. This is possible because probability space is not fixed destiny. It's possibility field. Consciousness can navigate probability, can shift which patterns actualize. Part 9. Schrodinger's haunting explained. The entity exists in superposition, manifested. Timeline 1, where friend dies. Not manifested. Timeline 2, where I intervene. Both timelines exist in implicate order until probability collapses. I perceive the manifested version years early because I access implicate order, where it already exists. Then I collapsed probability toward non-manifested version through intervention. The haunting was both real and not real until the moment of collapse. That's Schrodinger's haunting. Entity in superposition state, observable across multiple timelines, collapsing into one or the other based on consciousness interaction. Closing. If you have this capacity, you're not crazy, you're not cursed, you're not too sensitive or broken. You're perceiving information that exists in implicate order. Real information about probability patterns across non-linear time. It's overwhelming, it's exhausting, it's isolating, but it's also extraordinary capability. You can see dangers before they manifest. You can navigate probability space. You can potentially shift timelines through intervention. That's not mental illness. That's consciousness operating from expanded dimensional configuration. The protocols I gave you, temporal anchoring, dimensional filtering, verification practice, somatic discharge, finding your people, purpose integration, dissolution practice, these are essential, not optional, not nice to have. Survival tools, because without them, this capacity will destroy you. With them, it becomes gift instead of curse. And here's the thing. Your anxiety isn't the problem. Your anxiety is correct response to perceiving multiple threats across time points. The problem is not having framework to understand what you're perceiving and tools to manage the information overload. Now you have framework. You're a temporal probability navigator. You see Schrodinger's hauntings, entities in superposition across timelines. You're one of the few who can perceive implicate order directly. That's rare. That's powerful. And that's real. Take care of yourself. Use the protocols. Find your people. And trust what you perceive, even when it doesn't make sense in linear time. I'm Amy Rossi, and you have been listening to The Void Experiment. If this work resonates with you, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you for listening.